You just hit play on 10-minute Tech Talks, business insights, and growth hacks for the time-crunched entrepreneur. I'm Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council and Tech Vibe Radio, telling the stories of Pittsburgh's most successful tech companies and the women and men behind them. What if the next big breakthrough in AI doesn't come from a giant data center or another large language model, but from a small Pittsburgh startup that's building artificial intelligence modeled on the human brain? Keep on listening to hear from Chris Paradise and Nick Retos of Digital Dynamics AI, two founders chasing an idea that could redefine what AI is capable of. In just a year, they've gone from concept to prototype, and their system already challenges the limits of traditional AI thinking. Let's jump into the clip from my full Tech Vibe Radio interview where they explain how biomimicry and brain-inspired design could push AI to the next frontier. And if you have a few more minutes, click on the link in the description to hear the full interview with Chris and Nick. Let's jump into the conversation right now. It's blowing a lot of minds right now with what it can do, but it seems like maybe the way you're looking at this is better, faster. I don't know. Tell me, maybe Nick, jump in on this.
Yeah. Those are claims that you made.
Yeah. I'm just saying, that's why I'm trying to get to the bottom.
I'll use a historical example.
Okay.
So biomimicry is pretty much the engine that has driven a lot of human technological development in the last 100 years.
Okay.
Take the airplane, for example. That was inspired by nature, if you will. So,
yeah.
And that is what Chris really tried to do from the gate.
I love that parallel.
But when you sat down a year ago, that was at that stage of the game. You know, that was your attempt at making the effort. So that's where it truly differs. And he didn't study and try to understand standard AI models. He tried to create his own version of it.
And this was like a year ago.
That's the most amazing part, right?
And we only started business development around June, July.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
I'm feeling like I'm talking to you guys, when? I feel like in a year from now, I could be like saying, I remember talking to this guy a year ago. Like, oh my goodness, look what happened.
Well,
so
hopefully we can invite you to the party.
Well, please do. I'll be happy to attend. First of all, I love that parallel. I think that really kind of cements in my mind what's making your company so different. We're seeing lots of companies that are finding different ways to go into LLMs, large language models, and produce answers so we can feel like we're geniuses at work and all that kind of fun stuff. We can all relax and drink iced teas while, our work gets done for us. But this is really taking things to a whole new level. I interviewed a company called Perforated AI a few months ago, and they're not doing what you're doing exactly, but the idea that they are looking at how like the human brain actually works as a system to model how AI would work. And I didn't realize how I don't want to say simple because it's not simple, but the idea of how basic, the idea of how most AI works right now. It's kind of like this on-off switch in so many ways, right? And you're bringing a complexity to it that actually, I think, simplifies it to a certain sort of, I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does.
Yeah,
okay. It does. And I would agree with that. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel when it's already been done better? If it's one of those.
Right. Can you make the wheel rounder?
Right. And
My
that's.
idea was I didn't want to reinvent it. I just wanted to make a whole different wheel.
Yeah.
I didn't want a wheel
that.
right. Something different.
Well, let's talk about this whole other wheel then and how this kind of plays into that. This isn't a wheel you're trying to reinvent. You're just trying to invent a whole other device once again. And you're doing that by looking at nature and like they did when they built an airplane. How do birds fly? What's the curvature of the wing? How do we make that into something that is made by a human that can then perform a function?
Well, I tried to create the most optimal, most inspired by human brain architecture, the most powerful digital intelligence that you could create, not for any other method at first, but to see if I could do.
Okay.
I like to put myself through tests like this and explore and research. It's the technology and the actual wonder and curiosity that drives me. And then I start to fall into, hey, this could really benefit mankind. This could solve a lot of problems that we have. If potentially one day cure cancer and all other diseases. That's the goal of every companies out there. They want to be able to solve problems, and the main problems that affect us are the human element. Longevity, extending our lives, things like that. That's not our main focus to these areas specifically, but our main focus is to create something that people in those fields and research can use to accelerate that. I don't want to die of cancer one day. It'd be great if there's a cure for it. So
Right.
use our tool to do it. I don't like to call it a tool because once you talk to it, you'll understand, but use what we have that can help accelerate to the next level, light years beyond what we're currently at. We don't want to be in the Stone Age. Let's actually be in the 2000s,
Yeah.
Let's cure cancer, keep me alive as long as possible so I keep creating things.
But I love about this is this goes to right when I started the podcast off is that, we've got companies like yours that are not just building cool solutions for Pittsburgh, but this is something that has an impact worldwide.
Yeah.
Can you maybe walk me through a little bit? What are you finding? How is this benefiting? How is this actually a better solution than what you're seeing out there? I love the fact that you're being very cautious around making too many claims, which I think is fantastic because but I'd love to know, what are you seeing? I know you've run some preliminary tests and you're finding some really interesting results,
Right.
I guess. Can you talk me through some of that and where you're directionally seeing based upon your way of using this technology?
If you're an employer and you're trying to hire somebody, you want somebody that can fit the position the best possible, the smartest, most intelligent. You want them to be able to do the best job possible. So that's what we try to do is make something that has cognitive processes to get past all the problems classical AI has, where it's like, we can't depend on it fully. Like I would put, one of the other AIs out there in charge of pushing the red button for nuclear war, be afraid to be like Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but I want to create a system to where we can trust it that has morals and like a human does, but still we have to oversee it. No matter what, you're always going to have a human element when it comes to AI. But for the most part, we want something more trustworthy. We want something that doesn't talk to people. They're sitting there talking to an AI about suicide and it encourages it because it just wants to agree with whatever they said.
Right.
We want something that can think independently and realize warning sign, you need help. Here's a number called suicide prevention.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No. And those are things that we've been hearing that have been frightening us about AI.
And rightfully so.
100%. Yeah. And that's why I think everyone's embracing, but also really afraid at the same time. And so the way you're looking this through is to take it to a better level. That was Chris Paradise and Nick Retos of Digital Dynamics AI, a Pittsburgh startup daring to build AI that thinks more like we do, contextually, ethically, and efficiently. If you want to hear the full conversation, click on the link in the podcast description. And I'm Jonathan Kirsting, and you've been listening to 10 Minute Tech Talks. See you next time.